the old man in. I wanna live me some more. Can't leave it up to him. He's knocking on my door. And I knew all of my life that someday it would end. Get up and go outside. Don't let the old man in. Many months I have lived. My body's withered and worn. Ask yourself, how would you be if you didn't know the day you were born? Try to love on your wife and stay close to your friends. Toast each sundown with wine. Don't let the old man in.
So, happy birthday. Thanks for being such a wonderful person.
Oh, thank you.
And so, yeah, that was nice. Now we get to go to the real shit, right? Okay. So, Derek, one of the things I want to point out is that the cape has a pattern for a reason. It's a leopard print. And this is definitely a Dennis Asby story. So, we were out on this ride, on a safari, and we came across this beautiful leopard, and he was down kind of in this little gully, and our driver, he had parked the Jeep right up on top so we could observe. And it was absolutely it was a beautiful, beautiful creature. But little did we know that these hyenas came in and spooked this leopard, and what he ended up doing was darting up this tree that we were parked literally right next to. And it was between basically a leopard and my dad. There was me. And I had this leopard, and I'm not making this up, I had this leopard about 3 feet away from my face. And he showed me his teeth. So guess what my dad does? He pulls out his fucking camera. And so he did get the shot of the day. Anyway, it was an amazing experience, and that just shows you what my dad would do. So, does anyone, I know we all have, I told you to come and share a story, so, are we just gonna, I think we're gonna spray this off in between people. Yes. So, who would like to come? We'll just do one at a time. Come on up. Feel free to share your story.
I thought I'd bring one up to start things off that I thought was indicative of my friend Dennis. And so we're in Hawaii at a nice hotel.
Arrived.
At a conference. And Kathy's in the shower. Or no, I guess I was in the shower. But at any rate, the building starts to shake, and then it starts to shake, and then you can hear the different stories of the building bouncing off each other. It's a major earthquake, it's 7.5 or so. And and chaos ensues, and the hotel's evacuated, and it takes us quite a while to hook back up. And we eventually run into Minnie and Sarah out on the lawn where they're serving trumpets and things to make up for the fact we've all been evacuated. And so I go up to Sarah and I said, God, what happened in your place? And she says, well, I came out of the bathroom and all I saw was the door closed.
Someone left.
There was just before you joined the clinic,
we were in Snowmass at a medical meeting. And so it was big time Dennis, you know how that goes. And so I said, okay, I'll dare you. Let's go up to the top of Big Burn and we'll ski all the way down, non-stop. So he looks at me, okay. So, by golly, we did it. So I figured, okay, now we are equal. And to your bragging. And so I became his patient. And as time went on, Dennis was a really good diagnostician and very quick. So one day, one of those years, I came to him, I said, Dennis, I think I'm going to have Alzheimer's. I'm starting to have Alzheimer's. I cannot remember anything. He says, do you lose your keys? I said, yeah, all the time. He said, do you find them? Yeah, I said, eventually. He said, do you know what to do with them? That solved my problem.
Anyway, first story, this is actually Carrie and Dennis for that matter. So we're in Verbier, Switzerland, we're on a ski trip. And the night before, a big dump of snow. So that meant the next day was a powder day. Somehow the group kind of got split up. Anyway, Sandy and I are back in our hotel room. We say, let's walk into town. So we walked into town and we happened to go by a ski shop. And walking in the ski shop, the owner of the shop had his kind of like this, looking out, kind of shaking his head. And I asked him, what's the deal? Are you upset you weren't able to ski today? And he said, no. He said, I'm looking at those beautiful snow stakes over on that slope, and I can't believe the people survived. That's one of the most avalanche-prone ski slopes in the Alps. Well, anyway, Sandy and I browsed the shop, and then we left. No sooner got out of the shop, walking down the street, we encountered Carrie and Dennis. And she asked, or Dennis asked, what kind of day do you have? He said, well, we had a pretty good day. She's going, look at that, that's us, over there. So they were the ones that had made these beautiful snow stakes on one of the most avalanche-prone slopes in the area. And what's that?
And we're still here.
And you're still here.
God famously ignorant.
And the other story is that both Sandy and I have the distinction of saving Dennis's life. I saved his life once, and Sandy saved his life once, and Dennis can tell you how we did it.
Well, I remember Sandy, I don't remember you.
Oh, shit.
I think about it, but we were on St. Helens and going across the Traverse. This is before Blue? Yeah, before Blue. It was a steep slope, and I was in, and you were leading, and there was someone in, probably Steve was behind, and Sandy was in front of me. And somehow Al said, let's go fast. So it's getting late, let's go fast. And so we started going fast, and it was a little slushy, and for some unknown reason, my crampons didn't work right. Couldn't have been me, and I started to slide down the slope. Sandy went into an immediate arrest and stopped me from going all the way down. Give me a hint on how you saved my life.
So I think Steve may remember this trip where I saved your life. There was a little rock climbing deal.
Oh, yes, I remember now.
Remember that?
Steve, yeah, here, both times it was someone told me to go fast.
Hey, quit swinging.
Hey, Steve, remember me, doctor?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
That's another round story. Not long after your knee surgeries? Oh, Jack was there. We got up and we hiked up to Camp Leader and spent very windy and cold, climbed to the top of the mountain, came back to New York, and then Dennis was tired. And every time he fell down in the snow, the soft snow, he couldn't get back up.
I don't remember that.
You know, I lifted you out of the snow. I could have left you, I was tired. I lifted you. Then there was, that's a short story. Back in Verbier, you and Sarah and Carrie and I were skiing for the day. And Sarah got lost again. And Dennis got worried. You remember that?
Just Verbier.
Verbier. Carrie and I immediately abandoned you because the snow.
It's Snickers.
We had Snickers. We put you on a tram from home, and Carrie and I skied all day long. And that was it.
I don't remember that.
Yeah. We sent you home.
You know, maybe only 60. So he was really worried about this 80-year-old guy catching him. I ended up back in the cars and said, I was going to knock that guy down if he passed me.
I would have. That old son of a bitch. No way.
Those are a few stories. We could go on and on.
Anyway, Dennis and I were doing a trip down the Pacific coast 1.5 million years ago. He'd always ride way ahead of me. He'd get the motel, he'd open up a bottle of wine, it was all perfect. And there's one time we go into this, what was the town? Gold Beach? Doesn't matter. And we had this argument about whether it's truckland or translucent. And I actually looked up truckland because I thought that would be the appropriate name for it was the restaurant, the truculent oyster. Well, truculent is a bad word. It's like you're nasty. It's a thing to use about bad stuff like that. Anyway, so I was going to buy a nice card from what do they call that? Trader Joe's birthday card, and I couldn't find one I liked. So I got this one. It's I don't even get it now. It's kind of weird. It's got a picture of an big old gnarly rusty nut on the front. It says old, and it says Then you open it up, and it's got this shiny nut that says maybe not. On the other side, it says, actually this is a little limerick. It says, Dennis, oh Dennis, please say it's not true that you have turned 80. Well, good for you. Your years have been filled with adventure and fun, from hiking, biking, skiing, and such, to drinking and sometimes too much. And sometimes, no, wait a minute, I read it. Your friends and adventures add up to a lot, and now is certainly not the time to stop. So take this day and remember it all and keep making plans that beckon your call. Ta-da!
I'll break it up. I will break it up.
Good, yes. Okay.
It's a custom envelope too. You can't buy them anywhere.
So Judy and I and Dennis and Sarah were on a bike trip in France, in Burgundy. And Dennis was up ahead again, not back what was happening, but a big truck came up behind us. There was a little curve. Sarah didn't like the big truck. Tried to hop the curve, didn't make it, fell over, hurt her wrist. Dennis comes back eventually. Sarah's in quite a bit of pain. She even had to walk down to a riverbank to kind of shake it off. Dennis, like Nina says, great diagnostician. He can size it up. So he gets back, looks at Sarah's wrist. We got 4 days to go. This is a 2-week trip. Self-guided, no bus, no van, just the bike. So he looks at Sarah's wrist. She's nearly in
train, Sarah. Get back on your bike, let's go. She did. She never whimpered. Yeah, she had surgery, 2 days after you got back? Right. Jesus, it was a serious break. So, heroism. She's the hero.
Thanks, Mike.
Who else would like to come up and speak?
Two stories, because I had an opportunity in March and April during our quarantine here to go through that closet that had all these old VCR tapes that, had sat there forever. And I ran into one, and I was copying them to what I thought was the latest technology DVD. But anyway, I copied it, and one of them was Dennis Asby's 50th birthday party at his house. And I actually had a camcorder at the time, and I went around to people and said, tell me a story about Dennis. And they all had stories very similar to what you're hearing. Dennis doing something, leading the pack, getting in early, and holding up wine and waiting for other people to show up when the bottle was half empty at least. And so one story, as I say, I have two stories. One story was, the most memorable was from Dr. Rick Wagner. And I'm sure it's not true, but I'm going to tell it anyway because it was so memorable. And it had to do with the Dennis Asby cancer curse. Do you want me to tell this story?
Yes.
The Dennis Asby cancer curse. Now, I just saw this about 3 months ago. That's a Rick Wagner story, but he said that Dennis, he remembers that. We're playing golf and got behind some foursome that was really, really slow. And they didn't pick up, they were really, really slow. And according to the Rick Wagner story, Dennis said, I hope that guy, the slowest guy in the foursome, I hope that guy gets cancer and dies. And according to Rick, I'm sure it's not true, he said within 2 months he got cancer, and within a year he died. So, it's not true, but the moral of the story, if you're playing golf and you're in front of a foursome that Dennis is in, never putt out. Pick the ball up, go to the next tee and move on. But the story I want to tell is, has to do with Sarah. Because Sarah and Fred Christina, myself, and Bob Graves were into running back in the 70s. It was a cool thing to do. And so we decided, Bob and I anyway, decided to join Fred to run a marathon. And we told Dennis this. And Dennis said, run a marathon? Why would you do that? Why not, it's just kind of a fun thing to do to say, oh my gosh, how long is that going to take? And we said, well, probably for us about 4 hours. He goes, 4 hours? I don't like to sit in a car for 4 hours. So that was the Dennis that we really knew. But really, it was the Sarah who led us on all those runs during those days. Dennis's job when he'd come up for a social run, his job was to adjust the TV on New Year's Day, make sure all the bowl games were going to be on, the lighting was good, the remote worked, and we carried on from there. But anyway, great memory. Thank you, Dennis.
And you did a great job of it.
Anyone else like to make up?
Of course, Dennis didn't run. He was holding court afterwards. And for many times at the Sloans, it was the same thing. Watching the Ohio Hawkeyes and holding court. So I didn't really get to know Dennis until the last couple of years. And we went on a couple long road trips for photography around the Pacific Northwest. And this was about 30 hours in a car. And boy, does Dennis have the stories. And it was stories all the way from growing up in Des Moines
Grinnell College, Vietnam, skiing, the safaris, and everything else. And I love Dennis's stories, and I have to say that at 80, he never told the same story twice, and he always got the facts straight. I mean, he never contradicted himself or got his stories mixed up. So he's quite the storyteller, and I'm so much richer knowing Dennis and being his friend. Thank you, Dennis.
Sarah, you don't have to say anything. Good.
It's funny, my camera cover. Married a long time, probably longer than anybody else here. So we met in undergraduate school at Grinnell College, which everyone's heard of, in Grinnell, Iowa. And so anyway, we met in a class called Comparative Anatomy. Now, isn't that sexy? So Dennis at the time played football for Grinnell, and he was I guess a tackle or a guard or something on the line. And that particular year, Grinnell was in the running for the conference championship. And so they thought, so the game was at the other college, but it was like they were going to have a celebration afterwards. So he comes up to me in the class, we were in a lab dissecting sharks or something, and he goes, "Do you belong to the WTCU?" Does everyone know what that means? Women's Temperance, WCTU, Women's Temperance, something.
Women's Christian Temperance Union.
Oh, women's, well, whatever, I never heard of it. And I said, no. So that was our first date. And the rest is history.
Respect for Dennis, fantastic talk. So we are taking off for Phoenix to go to a medical meeting. And Kathy and I wake up in the morning to discover that our alarm has not gone off. And we are about an hour and 15 minutes till liftoff. You're supposed to get there an hour and a half ahead. So we jump in the car, we race to the airport thinking this is history, we're never going to make it. We park the car in the expensive spot, jump out to curbside to get the luggage there and check in at the curbside, make it quicker and just see if there's any chance we're going to make the plane. And we're standing there, and there's somebody up ahead of us who's taking a hell of a lot of time. There's a few people ahead of us. The clock is ticking, and we can't get a hold of Dennis because he doesn't have a cell phone. So anyway, we're standing there thinking more and more that this is going to be a trip that didn't happen. And all of a sudden, we hear that cheery voice behind us, "Look who the cat dragged in." And it's Denny and Sarah coming up behind us. They also have somehow had an incredibly late start. And it's now about 35 minutes till takeoff, and we're still out on the curb. And this person up in front who's taking all this time, is still taking all this time. And I said, God, I can't believe it. I think we're going to make it. And he goes, he looks like this. "Oh, I think we'll make it." And he simply walks up and goes, "Rufus, how's it going? How you doing with your blood pressure?" It's the guy running the luggage thing. "Well, I'm good." He said, "You haven't been in for like 3 years. How's your wife doing? Yeah. How are your kids doing?" And pretty soon I'm looking at my watch thinking, God, is Denny ever going to get done talking to this guy? Anyway, he checked us in, we made the plane. But the moral of the story is, Dennis loved his patients. He was a fantastic doc. And I still hear from people every single day asking how he's doing. Reminiscent.
The porter's name was Willie Montgomery.
Willie, I was thinking Rufus. Well, that's Dennis for you. Knew every detail, the entire family, and I don't think the guy's been in for 3 years. Anyway, thank you.
Okay.
We're going to sing Happy Birthday.
Okay.
So,
You better stand up, you might be able to get up again. Yeah, exactly.
come on over here. Thanks over here. Come on up, Dad. So this is why we have the leopard print. This is the leopard that was in my face. So 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday.
That's good.
Mom,
Oh, God.
Mom, come on up, put your camera down.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, full family. Yay.
3 more? No.
No, that's good.
No, come on.
Okay, here, one step.
Characters of good choice since it's been skiing all those years. And one thing, or maybe 5 things. Dennis always, for me, he always has a smile for you. And he tells good stories. And anything that you'd ask him, he will give you his time, I believe. So if you can answer something or give you something in return, he always does. But the real thing is, maybe it's a big secret, but he really cares about people. And I think that's probably his best asset. And if you want time, I think he has an answer for you, no matter what the situation may be. And so that's the best part of Dennis, except for that good time when he wants to, be the boy and tell you stories and stuff like that. That's just my feeling over the last few years. Thanks, Dennis.
Thank you.
When's your actual birthday?
Pardon?
No idea.
Friday.
He has no
When
idea.
is your actual birthday?
One of those days,
Friday,
Next
the
Friday.
30th.
the last Friday.
October 30th. It's great to hear all these stories. I remember every one of them. And think back on them and which one was the best, and they all are. They all are. They really are. And I say to myself, what was one of my most favorite memories? And think of yours. What was the most impressive, fun memory that you've got? And it's hard. It's hard. And one of mine involves medically. but it sticks in my mind so vividly that I got to relate. I was in Vietnam in this little tiny fire support base out in the middle of nowhere. It had been overrun a couple times. It was overran, and the doctor was in a bunker, and it was a charge had been thrown into his bed where he was, and it didn't go off, and that where I was assigned to sleep. I felt very comfortable. However, I would go out after a while into the village and treat the kids. If they had an ear infection, you didn't look in the ear, you just looked at it outside. You didn't have to look inside, you had pus coming, you get a shot and a cure. And a bunch of other things. And the villagers kind of thought, this guy's okay. And finally, I started delivering their babies. And these women would come up and say, we need a doctor. Vaccine. Yes. And I would come and deliver the kids. And I finally felt very comfortable of going out in the village by myself. No one else, I didn't need an interpreter. For the vaccine, I'm a doctor. My morphine is 4 times in one day, take 1 tablet. And so we knew that there was an NPA regiment in our area. And they came and said, we want the doctor to come and help deliver. And so this place would have been magic. This building here, it was a mud hut, thatched roof, a bed of bamboo. And underneath it, they had a bed of charcoal. I don't know why they had that bed of charcoal under the woman who was pregnant, lying there. And eventually, she was getting a little bit late. I got the kids coming soon, but not real soon. I'm looking outside, and it's dark, and VA are out there. What's they going to do when they catch a doctor? And so I finally delivered the kid, a healthy boy, and I walk out. It's very dark, and there is a guy standing there. You did not see a guy in the daytime with black pajamas on, and I'm thinking, oh shit, I'm dead. And the guy looked at me and he said, well, actually, how did he say it to me? Because I didn't have an interpreter. But he grabbed my arm, he wanted me to come and deliver his pigs. I didn't deliver the pigs, but I remember that whole story so vividly that that was one of the memories that I wanted to relate to Pete too. So Vietnam is different. Thank you for coming. I appreciate it.
So what do you get Dennis Asby for his 80th birthday, right? I mean, he has everything, he's done everything, he's just had this most fulfilled life. And I'm not making this part up. I literally, deeply, heartedly considered getting him the one thing that he doesn't have, which is a David Yarrow photograph. And some of you are into photography and you know who David Yarrow is, and some of you who don't. His prints don't come small. They come about, 8 feet by 10 feet, and they cost around 10 grand.
The cheapest is 70.
Okay, so 70, sorry.
70,000.
70,000. So I don't actually, ironically enough, don't have 70,000 in my back pocket. So I was like, when am I gonna get that? When am I gonna get that? And I got an email one day, and it took me a half a second to say yes, I'm gonna buy this. It is a print that has a lot of special meaning because I know who the photographer is, but also 100% of the proceeds to this photograph went to the first responders in London. So being a doctor, being retired, I thought what a very appropriate fit that all the money that went into this print went into the doctors and nurses for COVID. So come on around, Dad. I was able actually to get you a David Yarrow. So for those of you who don't know who David Yarrow is, he's very known for putting his camera literally in the ground and capturing the animal in their essence, in their natural state. And he's gone through quite a few cameras, to say the least. But he selected this print to the female, and she's walking through water, which I think is also another amazing thing because cats actually do.
I was talking earlier to Leslie. Leslie, this is what it looks like. About his work. He has a little bit more resources than I do. He flies into an area, he has airplanes in the sky to locate where the animals are, and then goes. He puts his camera on the ground to the path that they're most likely to go, and then shoots it remotely. Then he has also photos of the animals coming up because someone is taking. Then it comes up and he's shooting Nikon $4,000, $5,000 cameras. Elephant comes along and goes boink, kicks it. The next photo is a lion comes on, picks up his camera, takes off. Another one is a hyena comes in and just tears the camera to shreds. His photos that sell for $70,000 is the minimum. Thank you.
So here's a cute story. I
he put it out on display so that I walked into the store. It was sitting out on the counter, and one of the other customers, he came up to me and he goes, "I'll pay you double, whatever." And I thought about it for a sec. I was like, "Oh, I am buying land in Wyoming, huh?" Let's see. I didn't. No, I didn't.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Where are you gonna put it, Dennis?
Pardon?
Where are you gonna hang it?
Right next to my computer so I can see it 5 hours a day. And so, we go to Aspen. Unfortunately, we have to leave on a Saturday. And at that time, if you were a resident, you had to be at Grand Grounds between 11 and 12 o'clock noon on Saturday, or you were in deep shit. So we leave. There was myself, Leo Norton, who was another internist, Joe Bodensteiner, was going to a cardiology meeting in Aspen, and then Kent Rogerson, who was a psychiatrist that felt he needed to know more about cardiology. And so we were driving, after 12 o'clock, we were leaving, driving across Nebraska, which goes on forever, and I had a Pontiac, we had people that would sleep in the back and change all the drivers, but every time this song would come up, everyone rose up, and as loud as they could sing, would sing Rocky Mountain High. That was my memory of this song, which is for a short, one of the best. Short meaning 20, 25.
Many moons I have lived, my body's withered and worn. Ask yourself, how would you be if you didn't know the day you were born? When he rides up on his horse and you feel that cold, bitter wind, look out your window and smile. Don't let the old man in. Look out your window and smile. Don't let the old man